Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to unpack the source material surrounding what is literally the most famous missing body case in human history. We're looking at the accounts from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But you know what? We're taking a slightly different angle today. We're going to treat this like the intense, high-stakes suspense story it actually is, complete with psychological tension and a massive political cover-up. I mean, picture the scene, right? First-century Jerusalem, a highly controversial figure has just been publicly executed. His body is locked in a tomb, completely sealed, and heavily guarded by the local authorities. The tension in the city is just thick. His followers are absolutely terrified. They're hiding out, wondering, are we next? The authorities are totally on edge, basically just crossing their fingers that this whole movement dies out. But then, on the third day, the unthinkable happens. The secure location? It's compromised.
Our story kicks off completely in media res, with just raw, unfiltered panic. The inciting incident of this entire mystery is, of course, the discovery of the empty tomb. As the source material shows us, the immediate reaction of the very first people on the scene, the women who went down there to mourn, is not triumphant joy. Not at all. It's sheer terror and total confusion. What happened? They've taken him away. To them, this is an active crime scene. The body is gone. This massive heavy stone has been rolled away. So who did this? Grave robbers? Did the authorities move him somewhere secret? Or worse, did his enemies actually steal the corpse just to humiliate his followers even more? The initial assumption here is absolutely foul play. This sheer confusion sets the stage for a massive scramble for answers, immediately putting everyone, from the grieving friends to the heavily armed guards, on extreme high alert.
Section 1. The political cover-up. The followers aren't the only ones panicking here. The guards stationed at the tomb, they have a massive, literally life-threatening problem. They had one job, and they failed. If the Roman governor Pilate finds out a high-profile body vanished on their watch, it could mean their lives. So what do? They don't go to Pilate. They go straight to the religious leader, Caiaphas. They need an alibi, and they need it fast to control the narrative before mass panic sets in. And so an immediate battle for the truth erupts. And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast happening right now. On one side, we have this incredibly hard-to-believe, miraculous claim bubbling up from the followers. An angel told them he is risen. But on the exact opposite side, we see this hasty, highly calculated alibi drafted by Caiaphas and the guards. The official story becomes, oh, the disciples came in the night and stole the body while we were asleep. It is a classic misinformation campaign. It's designed to sound just plausible enough to the general public, even if it totally falls apart under scrutiny. Because honestly, think about it. How do sleeping guards know exactly who stole a body if they were asleep, right? But logic doesn't matter here. It's all about damage control.
But to make that damage control stick, well, it takes transactional economics. Hush money. The guards are terrified, so Caiaphas promises to protect them, but he also pays them off. And the source material actually includes this chillingly pragmatic piece of dialogue from Caiaphas. He kind of reflects on the dark irony of his ledger. He originally paid exactly 30 pieces of silver to have Jesus betrayed and executed, and now, staring at these terrified guards, he realizes he has to dish out even more money just to keep the man dead in the public eye. 30 pieces of silver to end the movement, and an undisclosed, massive bribe just to cover up the empty tomb. The conspiracy just keeps deepening.
Section 2. A disbelieved eyewitness.
While the authorities are super busy constructing their fake news, this intense psychological tension is building up inside the inner circle. The disciples are locked away, they're grieving, totally crushed, and into this dark, depressed room bursts Mary Magdalene. She is the first eyewitness. She just got back from the tomb, and she brings a claim that completely shatters their reality. Look at the absolute conviction in her words. I tell you, I saw him with my own eyes, and he spoke to me. Mary isn't passing on secondhand rumors about an open grave anymore. No way. She is reporting a direct, physical encounter. She literally heard him say her name. But the absolute tragedy of this moment is her profound isolation. She knows the real truth of what she experienced, but she's standing in a room full of terrified, grieving people who just immediately dismiss her. To them, it's a silly rumor. They try to rationalize it. They basically diagnose her profound, world-altering encounter as just grief-induced hysteria. Just imagine that suspense, knowing the absolute truth of a mystery, but the very people who should believe you think you've completely lost your mind.
The skepticism here isn't just logical, it's deeply, deeply emotional. Why would he show himself to you, Mary, and not to us? It's a striking question, and frankly, it reeks of jealousy and hurt. These guys were the inner circle, the chosen leaders, the men who gave up absolutely everything. Why on earth would the master appear to a weeping woman alone in a garden and completely bypass them? The empty tomb isn't just a physical mystery anymore. It's turning into this brutal psychological wedge that's threatening to permanently fracture these allies.
Section 3. The skeptic demands proof.
Enter our ultimate skeptic, Thomas. He is essentially the detective who arrives way late to the crime scene and just completely refuses to take the emotional witness statements at face value. He wants forensics. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is Thomas has an absolute unwavering standard for truth. He tells his friends, look, I'm a reasonable man. If I don't see it with my own eyes, it simply isn't true. He demands hard physical evidence over blind faith. He needs to see the wounds for himself. He needs to physically touch the scars. He's setting the ultimate condition for the climax of our story. I mean, the tension is just incredibly high right now. We've got a divided group, a massive political cover-up operating right outside their doors, and a core member of the team basically declaring that unless a dead man literally walks through the door and presents forensic evidence of his own murder, he's walking away.
And then we get the dramatic, supernatural reveal. Jesus suddenly appears right there in the locked room. And he doesn't offer a philosophical lecture. He doesn't demand blind loyalty. He meets Thomas exactly at the threshold of evidence that he demanded. He just says, "Peace be with you. Look at my hands and my feet. Touch me and see." He provides the undeniable physical proof, flesh and bone. The ghost story just completely evaporates. The massive political cover-up is rendered totally meaningless to those in the room, and Thomas's skepticism is instantly replaced with awe. The mystery of the missing body? Fundamentally solved for the inner circle.
Section 4. The final mandate.
Every good true crime or suspense story needs an epilogue to show how the resolution actually changes the characters, right? Let's move to and see how this builds. We travel far away from those claustrophobic locked rooms of Jerusalem out to the quiet shores of the Sea of Galilee. Peter and the others, they've just gone back to their old lives. They're out fishing. But they catch absolutely nothing all night. It's frustrating, empty work. Then, right as dawn breaks, a mysterious man is standing on the shore. He doesn't announce who he is. He just tells them to cast their net on the right side of the ship. And they do it, maybe just out of sheer exhaustion at this point. And suddenly, they pull in an impossibly massive catch of fish. The sheer overwhelming weight of the net, that sudden abundance after an entire night of emptiness, it acts as a trigger. This physical miracle suddenly makes them realize exactly who is standing on that beach watching them.
Once they're back on the shore, the supernatural suspense completely gives way to this incredibly emotional resolution. Jesus pulls Peter aside. Now remember, Peter is the one who notoriously denied even knowing Jesus during the arrest. There is some serious lingering guilt there. So Jesus asks him a question 3 times in a row, actively escalating the stakes each time. Step 1, do you love me? Peter says yes. Jesus replies, feed my lambs. Step 2, do you love me? Peter says yes again, feed my sheep. Step 3, do you love me? Peter, who is visibly distressed now, says, you know everything. You know that I love you. And the final command, feed my sheep. This repetitive 3-part exchange beautifully takes the raw awe and shock of the empty tomb and translates it into a permanent, actionable mandate for Peter. It is no longer just a mystery to be solved, it's a mission to be carried out.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this source material. During that climax with Thomas, Jesus says something truly fascinating. He says, because you saw me, you believe. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. You see, this story begins as a physical mystery, a missing body, a massive political cover-up, frantic searches for forensic evidence. But it ends as a deep psychological and philosophical challenge. The story asks us to literally consider the nature of truth itself. Thomas needed to physically touch the scars. Mary needed to hear her name. The other disciples needed to watch him eat. So what evidence does it take to change a mind? As we close out this explainer, I want to leave you with that provocative thought. When you are confronted with 2 completely opposed narratives, like a miraculous resurrection versus a calculated, high-stakes political cover-up, where exactly do you set your own threshold for belief? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the mystery of the empty tomb. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.